department head, President Washington, and myself to specify our request and make it custom to Bellevue. Item 4 is budget work, which Paul mentioned. We have completed our projections for the general fund. We are working on all the other funds tomorrow. I have met with all the department heads as well as the mayor to discuss budgets and submission of information to me. That's on schedule to get something to the mayor third weekish of September so that we can try to get a little jump on the budget process. When these projections are finished with all the funds, I'll be very happy to share them with council because I think it's valuable financial information that we want to know. That completes my report.
Okay, any questions for our DAS? No questions? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
And, okay, library, we'll do that later. Council, do we have a motion to ratify the vote to authorize additional services for Bellevue streetscape design in the amount of $8,790 by CPC? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to ratify the vote to authorize additional services for Bellevue streetscape design, except for the bump out at Lincoln and Star, changing the amount of the that we would be voting on.
Do we have a second? Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to ratify the vote to authorize the additional services for Bellevue streetscape design in the amount of $8,790 by CDC Incorporated, excluding the bump out at Lincoln and Star. Discussion on the motion. Mark.
So what's the purpose of this meeting? Are you saying you don't want, you're trying to eliminate compounds or just paying for the extra?
We haven't really even discussed North Star compound. It's not even been discussed, it just shows up on the plan. I didn't get to see that. I found out about it last week. I'm like, are you kidding me? And it's extra money.
What are the 4 compounds we do?
They are at South Star and Lincoln, and I think North Star and Lincoln. Am I correct on that?
No, they're done. They're done.
Not South Star, South Jackson and Lincoln and North Jackson and Lincoln.
Jackson.
But that's 2.
No, that's 2, 1 on each side, and each one has 4.
1 on each side?
And now we're accepting the CDC as the concrete to that store with a star.
Any other discussion?
Well, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
So did we, I didn't get a chance, I wish I would have got a chance to talk to Brad. So did we hear anything explaining this, or did we hear from Brad?
Well, we cannot have a bump out on Lincoln and Star because that is a state road. So we can't do it even if we wanted to do it. And that was never ever discussed.
So if we, let me ask you this, so we get this right. I don't want to mess around with compounds anymore, I get it done. And so is this, let me read this real quick. So why do we want to be, so my question would be, do we have to pay more for Jackson Avenue, which we already have calculated in? In other words, if this is the lead, is Jackson, if you're leading in Jackson, is Jackson Avenue costing us anything extra, or is that going to stay in there the way it is? In other words, is this extra cost just related to Star Avenue?
Jay, you have something to say?
Well, Sue's motion was just to eliminate star having the compound, so I don't know what the calculation
So we would
the
still
rest
be,
of them will be, but
we would still
when this came back in April and changed the council's original vote with all compounds on, in April we came back and said they had to negotiate 4 compounds so that people can see them. That's what it's supposed to say.
Okay.
Not installed, but we talked about installer and
So
that's what, well, they said you.
I'm almost up. So again, if you eliminate any fees to do Star, is North Jackson, I'm going to ask correction, is North Jackson still included in the original?
Correct.
Is there no additional fee for North Jackson? It's already, I don't want to comment.
Okay, so this is going back to the original meeting. Basically what was discussed was to only put a bump out, which if you call a sidewalk through it, then that equals 2, whatever you want to call it. But that's 1 bump out on South So in the change order that was in there, it is basically to do both sides of Lincoln Avenue at Jackson. That was included in there. The North Star, which there's really not a whole lot there. If you wanted to put a bump out there, it's a curve. There's not a whole lot of money there. The effort is going to be in Jackson because there's inlets and things we need to deal with. So there's really not a whole lot to do. So to take the one off the Star, that's not really going to save a whole lot of money on design. And you can absolutely put a bump out at a state route. However, you do have to get an HOP, which is an additional fee down the road. So I would definitely not recommend doing that one, at least now. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't design one and have one ready for the future. Then it just goes through the permitting process. If you want to go through with that, actually that one at the Star and Lincoln intersection. So you can still get both bump outs on both sides of the street at Lincoln Avenue for what's in that change order.
Because those weren't included in the original package. In other words, why the extra fee instead of paying extra?
Okay, so the extra fee came in when we initially did the design. All the bump outs were removed. So we redid all the intersections to, instead of having the ramp, the ADA ramp, go through the bump out, which is, essentially just a ramp sidewalk, which is a lot cheaper and easier to deal with. That's the idea that was there. When the bump outs were eliminated, we have to put all those ADA ramps back into all the curve, all the edges. So there's a lot of design that had to be redone to incorporate all those. And final design was not done on the bump outs. I will say that to begin with. So when the bump outs were eliminated, we did final design based on using the curves, and all the ramps are inside on the curves and in the sidewalk. Then it was determined that after the drawings were done that we wanted to add bump outs into it. So that's why there's a change order to add the bump outs after the design is already been done. So that's where you come up with the change order on why we need to have additional design money to actually design the bump outs.
So, I understand. So part of it does fall back on the fact that we have that committee that recommended one thing, and got pushed away, and got pushed, brought back, and you went back and forth. So, I understand, everybody needs to understand that too. Go ahead. Okay, I understand. I'm waiting.
Lynn, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask the question, but I think you almost clarified it. The four original bump outs, I don't, maybe it's me, I don't remember us talking about South Star. I remember South and North Jackson. So I know you probably just explained this, but
There was the kind of North Star side. The South Star side, with the type of the radius of the trucks, we can't really put a bump out on that side.
so it was 3 bump outs really?
Well, no, initially it was actually 2 bump outs. One was on one side of Lincoln Avenue in front of the Pizza Monte. The
Right.
other one was up on Star. There's none recommended for on the north side, at least from what the council approved to move forward through. So I wouldn't recommend that. So I would do one on both sides. That's what I said we needed, and they're basically going to kind of be very similar in design on those sides. And then we added the one on North Star as well.
So you're recommending South Jackson, North Jackson?
Yes.
And you're saying the North Star, that's not something we could do right now, but we could set up design plans?
Yeah, I mean, you can show it on the plan, and it's just like any of these things. When we have the plan right now, we can't afford to do it all. So when we go out the bid, we're going to do as much as we can. We're going to have a couple bid alternates to try to add a few things in. And then when we get the next funding, it just keeps going. So if you get to the end of this and say, I really want one over there, then you can get the HOP and you can install it.
And if we don't do the design for North Star now, does that realize it's a savings? Not really.
Like I said, I mean, all it is a curve and there's very little there. The other one where there's money is there's an inlet, 2 inlets that we have to address and make sure, so that's where the money in the design is, putting a curve with some, soil or concrete or something, that's very minimal. So the reduction cost would be very minimal.
So would you feel comfortable, just asking your personal opinion, if we just went with North and South Jackson as bump outs at this point?
That would be fine.
Okay, just asking.
I have a question. Let me get, I have a question for you for the future, going down the road here. With each set of bump outs, because of the final plan, is each set of bump outs going to cost us extra money?
If they're not in the design now, then, yeah, I mean, as we go through and we do the final drawings, and, yeah, then it would cost, I mean, I can't do things for free, so.
Okay, so each set of bump outs is going to, approximately how much would that cost us? For each
It
set?
all depends on each one, like I said, if it was just North Star and there's no inlet or anything like that that would cause a problem, then it's gonna be very minimal. And I don't know exactly how much that would cost, it'd have to be determined on the size, you know, what's going through it. The other thing, it all depends on when you do it. If we install an ADA ramp in the sidewalk and then you want to put a bump out in later, it doesn't really make sense that way too. So there's a lot of things that go into that. I think as we get more grant money and as we go, we determine at that point that, hey, we want to add this in or not. And at that point, if I'm redoing design drawings for bidding, it's not going to cost that much to add some of these in. So are they all going to cost $1,900? Absolutely not. It's just anything where there's an inlet that there's a lot more detail that goes into that.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
So right now, we're voting to change this, to make it clear.
Right. You take the one on Lincoln and Star out.
Well, no, you're deleting this fee also.
No, we're not deleting the fee.
Oh.
No.
So you're agreeing, so you're not doing the,
The motion, Jake,
The motion is to accept CEC as to move on with the project, but to move on with the project in Hopper, if I'm not mistaken.
but
So
you're
we
not,
also have a job to do.
okay, so you're not deleting that.
no,
Okay.
not in this motion.
We can't delete the charge now.
Right, okay, I'm just making sure you are, that's all.
There's any charge for the Lincoln Star that was in the, in there, that would have.
Okay, I was just double checking.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Nays? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brunel. Mr. Camello. Mrs. Coder. Ms. Heffley. Mr. Helbling. Mrs. Viscusi. Mr. Viscusi. Mrs. Washner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Code enforcement, he gave his report at our tree council meeting. Committee chair reports. Finance, our chair of finance,
The budget is being worked on as we speak.
okay. Any questions for our chair of finance, Sue? No? Okay, thank you, Sue. Parks and Recreation, Jim Siciani is absent. Kathy, could you, is there anything from Parks and Recreation you want to add?
I copy Ross Township of the easements, which like, their magazine where they're advertising or say on the fifth foundation. And we had a meeting with Ross Township and we were talking to them about collaborating on the pool. And there's a possibility that they may want to work with us in the future on the pool.
I'm sorry, Kathy,
No, I just said that we had a meeting with Ross Township, their Parks and Rec, and their manager, and they might be wanting to work with us, because their residents really like the resident rate, and they want to contribute. So we're just in the phase of talking with them about that and collaborating, because the park is in Ross Township, we own it. So it's a good intergovernmental cooperation, nice, feel good thing to do.
questions for Kathy and Parks and Rec? None? Thank you so much. Public Works? Jim Viscusi? There's nothing, any questions for Public Works for Jim? None, thank you. Public Safety Chair, Jane Conlon? Okay, nothing to report. Any questions or comments for Jane? Okay, nothing, thank you, Jane. Special Committee Report, Intergovernmental Committee, on August 26th, Lynn Heffley and I attended this particular committee meeting. And what we did, we talked about investigating a mutual agreement to work together to deal with the tax sale of properties and to open up communication concerning common interests so that if there is some sort of concern, we have contact information and we will discuss it via email, text messages, and so forth. Lynn, is there anything that you would want to add to that?
Just, that we met with 2 Avalon officials and 2 people from the Northgate School Board.
Right. There were 6 of us, 2 from Avalon, 2 from Bellevue, and 2 from the school district on that committee. And that was our first meeting, and I see this as a first step, very positive. It was a good meeting. Any questions or concerns? If there is anything that you would want us to talk about, feel free to either talk to Lynn or I, and we'll pass it on. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Resolutions. Do we have a motion for the first resolution? A motion has been made and seconded to approve Resolution 2013 authorizing hiring of Teresa Timmons for library page. Discussion on the motion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Nays? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bromley. Mr. Camello.
Aye.
Mrs. Coder. Ms. Heffley. Mr. Hellman. Mrs. Viscusi. Mr. Viscusi. Mrs. Washington.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next motion, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2113, refunds on real estate.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve Resolution 2113 authorizing refunds of real estate taxes due to changes in assessed values for overpayments. Discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Nays? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bromley. Mr. Camello.
Aye.
Mrs. Coder. Ms. Heffley. Mr. Hellman. Mrs. Viscusi. Mr. Viscusi. Mrs. Washington.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Do we have a motion for the next resolution?
Make a motion for resolution 2213, extend the Public Works Department summer help program, Union, Jonathan Paytech, and Robert Dunn.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to approve Resolution 2213 to extend DPW summer positions for Tyler Manning, Jonathan Paytech, and Robert Dunn. Discussion on the motion? No discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bromley. Mr. Camello. Mrs. Coder. Ms. Heffley. Mr. Hellman. Mrs. Viscusi. Mr. Viscusi. Mrs. Washington.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We have 3 ordinances. The first ordinance is to take from the table ordinance number 1310. Do we have a motion to take from the table?
I'd like to make a motion to take the table for this resolution, the dog.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to take from the table ordinance 1310, establishing restrictions and regulations for off-leash areas for dogs and public parks and public. Do we have a motion to adopt ordinance 1310?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 1310.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 1310, which shall establish restrictions and regulations for off-leash areas for dogs in public parks and Bellevue. Discussion on the motion. Mayor?
I had sent a communication to council concerning this, I want to bring it up again. I'm not questioning the rules of the dog park, but we've crafted the way they have it. I don't have any problem with it. Just trying to bring up the issue of children, and that's, that's separate from what I'm talking about. concern is, when you look at this at face value, it's an ordinance that states, if anyone breaks any of the penalties, or whatever the rules are, that they can be cited and fined, which I understand. However, you're telling the Borough of Bellevue, and you're telling the police department, what you want done is, if someone comes up to the dog park with no phones in their pocket, a rubber ball in their hand, you want the police to cite them and fine them. It makes no sense. It's not crafted correctly as an ordinance. Now, if someone comes up there and it's a disruption, yes, the police are going to intervene and recite them of disorderly conduct or whatever else may be necessary, or whatever tools in their pocket. But to sit there and maybe it's just a matter of semantics. Say, we want rules 1 through 10 followed, and if you don't follow them, the police have the right to cite you. Now you have, and you're sitting here, and you're telling the citizens of Bellevue that if I can't prove my dog has been spayed, that I'm going to be cited, and I'm going to have to go in front of a magistrate, and the magistrate is going to have to make a decision whether or not my proof of being spaying my dog is accurate. Or maybe that's just too easy. Maybe it's, you had 15 milk bones, a rubber ball in my pocket, because those things are not allowed. You keep your dog because you can't bring bullets for common sense reasons with that many dogs. But you're telling the police department that you want them cited for those reasons and taken in front of a magistrate for those reasons. And I can't imagine a magistrate sitting there going, dog trees, rubber ball, and something else. I mean, I don't think this is put together correctly. I think it should have put together as a resolution adopting the dog park rules and then let the police enforce what is necessary, because you're going to be paying a police officer to go to court, and you have a pretty good chance to eventually put this and go, really, yeah. You have to. And whether the police, if you pass this tonight, I can tell you, I will instruct the police, there's no way we're going to look at these rules and we're not going to cite people for these rules. We'll cite them for disorderly conduct, we'll cite them for whatever trespass, whatever is necessary, because I don't feel in good faith that at the face value of this ordinance, we go in front of a magistrate, it's not going to be booted out, and we're not going to waste the taxpayer money. I think we should just very quickly turn it into a resolution, vote on it as soon as possible, get it in place, and let's go at it. The dog park's a wonderful amusement park. They've crafted rules that seem reasonable to the council, that's fine. But, if in 10 years, when you sit back and look at a piece of legislation and go, really? That makes no sense. In addition to what I'm saying here also, I'm going to ask council one more time, I asked 2 months ago, to please review the rules that are in place for Memorial Park so that we can meld them together in coordination with the dog park. Because they need to be updated. And yes, at Bay Park, the rules were originally cited by ordinance. At that time, maybe it made sense. You weren't allowed to have a horse in Bay Park. Okay, well, that was probably common sense. There was a lot of horses. That was something easy to enforce. I think it is much older and creeds to enforcing the rules of this dog park through law enforcement when necessary. So when we get to the magistrate, it is what it is. Just like we can enforce the rest of it. We don't enforce the rules per se because some of them are so antiquated that you have to cite people for other reasons, whether it be disorderly or be trespass.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your comments. I do want to say the dog park rules are already in resolution form.
Yes.
And it was requested to put in an ordinance. And I will tell you that you cannot instruct the police officers to break the law. And if the police officers, hold on, they are. If they're not enforcing our laws, they are not doing their job. And police officers who are not doing their job could be terminated. And the council does terminate employees. We don't have direct supervision, but we do have the ability to hire and fire. So I don't really think it's a good idea for you to do that. Okay,
No, I was just wondering if we're going to consider what Tom said tonight.
Bring it up.
I'd like to hear from Connie or whoever came up with the rules, why children under 12 are permitted.
Connie, could you please address that?
Yes, this was done after a great deal of research of dog parks across the country. I mean, you understand, Kathy, you're always talking about us doing something progressive, don't do things the same old ways. Well, in other parts of the state, in other parts of this country, actually, age restrictions are even more severe. They will go clear up to 16 or 18. If you go to any dog behaviorist, they will tell you that having small children in an off-leash area is the most horrifyingly dangerous thing that they can think of you doing with a dog. People say, but Mr. Fogey said, my daughter loves dogs. I'm sure she does, but not every dog loves babies. Little children running around, to some dogs, look like prey. And even the dogs that aren't aggressive towards children, which is just be natural, are likely just in playing with each other, in running around, and jumping and having fun. And these are very large dogs, a lot of them.